Thank you all for being in here. And it looks like we have, just a room full. I wish we could all be in person. It's fantastic to be here. I am Maureen Procopio from the University of Oregon. I am on the Case District 8 board, and I do a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion work with my fellow members there. And I am thrilled to be here with Corian, Nohe, and Scott to hopefully facilitate a conversation and it sounds like we have lots of folks in the room here that are ready to have a great dialogue. So I don't think that we're going to have to really work hard to do this. So if you're like me, this has probably been a week without a lot of sleep. And I've been calling it election brain. Forgive me if I'm kind of bumpy here, but so I want to plant this question, my co-facilitators and I, about what you want to take away. I don't know what that is. And I know I want to take away just ideas and lessons and just support from all of you. But for you, it's your own decision. And it could be increased comfort around dialogue in the space of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're all coming together at different places. Maybe a new connection and a new idea. Corey and Scott and Nohe and I actually, we've been preparing for this for a while and decided to do a monthly meeting with each other because we've built a friendship and we have this mutual, really want to make change in this space. And so now here we are with a network, and maybe that's where you are and you want to build a network. So we don't have much time and none of us are experts, and we certainly aren't the experts. And so that's not what we're here to do. We decided to focus this conversation on our colleagues who are Black, Indigenous, and people of color or BIPOC colleagues. And so we're going to touch on a couple topics that we thought we would plant some conversation ideas, but we could go in different directions. And so we're going to touch on recruitment, retention, and maybe strategic planning. And so I'm going to let Nohe, Corey, and Scott introduce themselves, and then we'll start with Nohe for the first conversation. But so I'm going to have them introduce themselves, and then we'll go with Nohe. But Corian, I'm going to have you introduce yourself, and then go from there.
Hi, good morning. Thanks so much, Maureen, for your leadership and everybody for joining us. I know there's a lot going on in the world, so for leaning into your professional development and learning is no small thing. My name is Corian Barker. I use he, him pronouns. I work at the Evergreen State College in the capital city of Washington State. I serve as the Associate Director of Events, Alumni, and Donor Relations. And just for context, my advancement division is a centralized operation.
Nohe, let's go to you.
Morning, everyone. My name is Nohe Ka, and I'm from the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center. There, I lead our gift services and data management team. And my passion is really just getting as many, of my own people that look like me, girls, just broadening horizons for, people from underserved populations. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Nohe. And Scott.
Hi, I'm Scott Finley. I am the Director of Data Analytics at the Central Washington University in beautiful Ellensburg, Washington. I really am hopeful that small institutions in the middle of nowhere, as it were, like ours, can start to attract BIPOC faculty and staff and diverse faculty and staff. Our campus is accelerating its not only its non-traditional students, but also its people of color, especially Latinx students. It's going to be Hispanic serving institution very soon. A lot of first generation students and a lot of First Nation students from around the state are coming to Central, and we need to have a faculty and staff that more resembles them, the student body, than what we have now.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, let's jump in with our first topic. And I think that what we are hopeful for is Nohe will kick it off, and that, well, I know she will, I'm not hopeful for that. But basically she'll start with the topic, and we'll create a comfort zone and safety. This is a safe place. And like I said, nobody's an expert. And so find a comfort in either unmuting and jumping in, or chatting in. And John is, he will help us maybe with the chats. I will try and keep up with the chats. So anyway.
I'll keep my eye on them.
Perfect. And so, and we'll go from there and just have this awesome, huge roundtable. I think I saw like almost 60 folks. So I'm picturing this huge, like literal round table of all these amazing folks who are here to create this inclusive, amazing space for us. So Nohe, let's start off and talk about recruitment. And so let's think about recruitment of BIPOC colleagues in our spaces, in our organizations, and doing these efforts intentionally and with intentionality. And so I'll have you, talk about that and what your organization is doing and how you, what your thoughts are around it.
Hi. So again, my passion is really mentoring, networking, and growing, a space for people that look like me, and with that, what I really is kind of through my career at Fred Hutch, when I got to the point where I could make hiring decisions, make decisions on, who's going to be on the panels, really looking at job descriptions, what I, very much intentionally tried to do for some of my, for gift processors. They don't have to have college degrees. So what I've done is I very much changed job descriptions to look for individuals that have, demonstrated experience. A lot of the times, I've hired people from, other nonprofits, and they haven't had, they don't have that college experience, but they have, demonstrated work experience. Or I don't always look at people who, and then another thing, I don't always look at people who come from, nonprofits who have, razor's edge experience. I've recruited people who have, they've been bank tellers, people that are, customer service oriented. And I really try to open up and diversify, who we're interviewing. And oftentimes, like my interview pools don't look like a lot of my colleagues' interview pools. Like I'm getting people from all various types of walks of life. Also, even for, the example of one of my gift services managers, two of these people, they're not from the nonprofit philanthropy world. One of them is this specific job was for really a process improvement manager. So, my first recruit, she was from DuPont, very much, it wasn't this fluffy, as we say, philanthropy. She was just, very much all about processes, all about process improvement, Six Sigma, all of these things. And her, my current gift services manager, she came from the city of Seattle. So again, outside of the kind of nonprofit realm. So what I really tried to demonstrate, on our team is just looking at different pools of talent and opening that up more, and being very intentional about, who's going to be on this panel, my interview panel, making sure that I have a good representation of, diverse a more diverse panel. Can I get a raise of hands of how many people have like more than 10% of BIPOC colleagues in their departments, or 33%? So right now in philanthropy, we have 7 BIPOC colleagues out of our 72. So one, you know, that to me, that's just something that like I've really been focusing on, like how can we get, you know, not only just, you know, the number up, but in addition to bringing more BIPOC colleagues on board, how can we make this space, you know, safe for them, a place where they can grow and thrive? Because it's another thing that, you know, we notice is there's really not as much, you know, retention and, you know, growth opportunities. Because I think, you know, from my experience at Fred Hutch, you know, I started in annual giving and I was the program assistant. And, you know, I was very fortunate to, you know, have a supervisor who really allows me to grow and has allowed me to, you know, really make my own path. But what I really want to try to do is not have it, you know, just having to pound down and knock down the door, but how can we make, you know, an intentional path for colleagues that are, you know, coming into, you know, their first jobs or coming in kind of like their mid-range of, you know, their career. And a lot of that also is, you know, besides recruiting and looking at job descriptions, interview panels, is networking. I mean, kind of what I'm doing here, like I've already made like a handful of connections, you know, with you know, several colleagues. And, you know, I'm always like in my brain looking at anybody, like how could this person, you know, would they fit on our team, you know, or, you know, this person, they would be great at this role at Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I mean, I'm constantly networking, mentoring, and I just have my hands like, just try to be open to everything that's going on that I have access to and can give other people access to. Because I think a lot of it is about access. A lot of it is about, you know, recognizing at the point where I really have the capability to kind of, you know, insert people in places or introduce people to places, and, you know, using my privilege really for, you know, to help other people out. And I'm going to take a quote from one of my old colleagues, Aiko Bethea, and she's actually, she's a Learn to Lead coach, and she's Ellen, like we ended up finding out, one of my new friends that I met through here, she's going to be Ellen's Learn to Lead coach. But a quote that Aiko said is, when privilege is leveraged to expand opportunity for others, it is not a source of shame, but an ingredient to promote equity, increase creativity, and invite innovation. And it's really the key to building community. And that is just a quote that resonates with me so very much. And yeah.
I love that, Nohe. So what are some thoughts from folks here who are attending on what Nohe has touched on, you know, ways to expand, you know, recruitment, but, you know, where she, you know, paused, which was really leveraging her privilege and, you know, of where she's at in her organization and raising up some of her, you know, some of the folks in her organization in ways that perhaps they wouldn't have that opportunity. And so feel free to either speak out, you know, unmute yourselves.
Hi, Maureen. I'm going to unmute myself. Sorry, everyone. My video is off since I have not great.
I know that voice. Hey, introduce yourself.
Together. My name is Lauren. My name is Lauren Wallbridge. I'm an associate director of development at U of O. I have the privilege of working with Maureen. I wanted to thank Nohe for that last piece that she shared about leveraging your privilege, taking it away from being a source of shame, I'm not someone who's in a position to make hiring decisions or recruiting decisions, but I'm always trying to look for ways I can talk to my colleagues who are in that position, some of whom are thinking about those questions and making that a priority. But even though I don't have that particular privilege, there are other white folks who do. So it's not as direct as I would like it to be. I would love to be in a position where I can make those kind of decisions and priorities myself, but I'm not there yet. So.
Thank you, Lauren. And that's absolutely true, you know, in terms of knowing where you are in your organization. And sometimes that power is not, you know, at the top of the organization, but it can be, you know, in different ways, raising individuals up in conversations. And I see my friend Tyrell Warren Burnett from OSU Foundation chatted in, you have to be intentional when you are in that position. And that's absolutely the case. You know, just, it doesn't, you don't wait for the opportunity. How does that, I mean, how does that feel for folks when, you know, like, it's sometimes, you know, it could be scary to step forward, you know, with intentionality, but it's so empowering when that happens. Does that speak to folks in a way that, from an experience, or maybe something you let go by that you didn't act on, but in, you know, hindsight's 2020?
Hey, Maureen, this is Jenny Minetti Shippey from the University of Oregon. How are you?
Hi, Jenny. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a leadership annual giving officer here at the U of O. It's a career change for me from being a faculty member at another institution. And I just want to speak to this idea of feeling afraid to leverage our privilege in conversations, particularly at the U of O as they occur among our other white colleagues. I would say that I would just encourage folks to remember that it's a skill that can be developed through practice, the same way that any of the other professional skills that we use can be developed through practice. And that one of the things that I know Lauren and I, as members of the Advancement Diversity Committee, hope to do is hope to help people develop the skills to have those conversations in the moment and learn to leverage their privilege in ways that then become intentional, yes, but we are able to be more confident in them because they are skills that we have practiced. So I just wanted to kind of add that to the conversation.
Thank you so much, Jenny. I really appreciate that. And this actually leads to, you know, another topic. It's a great segue that I'm going to have Scott lead us off on, and have Scott jump in on. And it's the topic of where you know, what have been some ways that you have seen your organizations provide intentional spaces for BIPOC colleagues to feel connected and included in organizations? So what are these steps that allies have taken in terms of, you know, taking a role in these efforts? And where has leadership fit in?
Hi. We are kind of in an island out here in the middle of Washington, and it's really hard to attract BIPOC advancement people, even more so than Nohe or Corian, or even down in Eugene or Corvallis. It's really hard for to get those individuals in philanthropy to come here. And it's also hard to, because except for college students, and there are a lot of Latinx around, but the Latinx, they have different career paths. So it's really hard for us to attract. So we have to do a lot of mentoring and intentional ways to attract and also to keep them here. We definitely have a robust student and student workforce and internships that I am happy to say last year we did have a BIPOC student in our advancement services area doing that, and we really encouraged her. A few years ago, we had an exceptional student who is a dreamer that was interning in alumni affairs. But her, see, and here's the issue, her, we encouraged her to stay in philanthropy, but her ambitions are too great. And she went and is getting her doctorate at Harvard and is working with the UW right now in diversity areas. So it's a challenge. So I don't have answers. We have our strategic plan and we have aspirational goals as an institution to attract more, to try to mirror our student base, but I don't have answers. We are limited by the candidate pool. Our HR department is definitely on the lookout for diversity when we send out these job descriptions, and we just hired a BIPOC person for the annual fund, but because we went through a reduction in force, and our union rules, our only other BIPOC staff member was bumped by someone else because of union rules. So we're losing one. We gained one, we lost one. And so we're gonna have a net of one again. So I guess, I'm one of the ones here on the panel that needs answers more than questions, because I think we all need help here. We definitely want to encourage people. We want to support people, but we need to attract people, and that's the thing. So please.
Thank you, Scott, and especially like the honesty around like I don't have answers, and I'm seeing a comment from Kelly North, and I'm sorry, it's cutting off where you're from for me, and I'm really not savvy with how to.
University of Michigan.
Oh, thank you. So we have, and she says that we have created a development professionals of color group to hopefully create a support and community network for our BIPOC employees. Early days, but it sounds like you're pretty optimistic, but that's awesome. And there's other comments coming in, but I'm just going to really quickly comment and then maybe open up for more comments from the roundtable. Just to build off of what Scott was saying, just hearing about, you had some diversity, a colleague in your staff that was bumped out because of union rules. I mean, the systemic, just hearing about, how the system was working against, the diversity in our organizations. It makes, if I'm being honest about my feelings, and I think we're honest here and safe, it makes me mad and it makes me sad.
We brought that all up because we loved Elsa. I mean, she was among the best, one of the best hires we ever had among just the regular staff. And we went to diversity and inclusion, the VP of it, and she said, sorry. So I don't know.
Yeah. And so, and how do you break down those barriers and walls when it's so, it's just so, deep. I'll shift gears into, unless somebody has another comment, interrupt me. I'll shift gears into, some thoughts that I have around, where leadership can step in and step up. Our VP has been very active, and I've seen, other leadership in our organization, step up in terms of creating these paths for, just kind of talent paths, and so thinking about, internship programs that will take, if we think of our students, and the makeup of our student base and hiring, diverse, talented students, and then creating a talent path that can hopefully provide, careers and career pathing for them into advancement, or at least open up the experience and this interest in the field of advancement for these talented individuals, these talented people to spread their wings, whether it's at the U of O or elsewhere, into, your communities, and bring their interests to your organizations. That's where I see, our leadership taking a role in changing, the diversity, the face of diversity in our field. Other thoughts that others might have here on this?
Hi, my name is Raitza Garcia. I'm with University of San Antonio.
Hi, Texas, yay. I love that, how national this conference is. So
what I wanted to say was I am new to development recently. I've only been in development for 5 years. And the only reason I am here, and I'm loving it, is someone gave me an opportunity. Someone saw something in my resume that wasn't development that could translate well to development. So I relate to Nohi in the sense that you need to be creative with your job descriptions and to be able to see the skills that you not necessarily the way your career has gone through. Before this, I was literally a military spouse. I had been around a lot of different people in different areas of the United States, different levels. And so she thought this would translate well to development work. And it did. And but once you give someone the opportunity, then you also have to create that network for them to be supported. Because yes, they gave me the opportunity, they thought outside the box, they brought me in, but now they need to help me grow. Because this is a new path. So,
retention, exactly, and the growth, absolutely, Rachel.
And the issue with retention is that we are a very transient field. We have people moving in and out all the time. For my presentation yesterday, I counted, since I started here in 2013, in a staff of 21, we've grown to a staff of 31, but I've had over 70 colleagues in that time, just moving in and out 2 years, 1 year, 3 years at a time. And so you might grow someone, you might grow them out of where you're at. You might grow them out of your organization. And that is the way of advancement. It just happens. So it's not only, how do you keep good people in an industry that really shuffles a lot of people around everywhere. It's not so bad in isolated areas like here, but in like Seattle or Portland or something, there's always opportunities to go somewhere else. Maybe not exactly now, but just moving people around to all the different nonprofits and universities. I consulted in Boston, and I don't know how many people had done the train, I guess, from Tufts to Harvard to Suffolk to, from prestigious institutions to small institutions to in like 5 years, they went from MIT to Tufts to Suffolk.
Are you seeing, Risa, that you're being actively retained, or are you feeling, I mean, what are some efforts you're seeing that are working or could be maybe improved?
Well, so to Scott's point, that turnover meant
Yeah.
that I've been at the institution for 5 years, and I have had 5 different uh, lead persons, like VPs for the position. So it's been really difficult to create that mentoring networking. So I've had to look to other development officers for that support. And I guess because I am older, I have been past that and look for that myself, being advocate for my own needs. But not like, especially the younger generation is going to be really difficult for them to feel that they can ask for certain things. The other thing I wanted to say to Lauren's point earlier is that I have embraced every opportunity to participate in the hiring, the recruiting of new people. And to this point, I've been asked a couple of times to serve on interview committees. And it doesn't matter how busy I am, I always say yes, because I feel it's very, very important to bring my perspective to that conversation. And I don't get the decision to decide at the end of the day, but if I'm able to listen to candidates and provide recommendations, then I am going to take every opportunity that I am given to do that.
I'm gonna hop in here, and I think this is a really great segue into looking at strategy. And something I want to share about my experience. I'm a 5th generation Texan, born and raised. I've got my boots on today, and I just want to say, I came to Evergreen in August of 2016 as the manager of special events. And then in February 2019, the role that I'm in now, Associate Director of Events, Alumni and Donor Relations, was created. And so 2 things I want to name in this work of diversity, equity, and inclusion is that representation matters, and seeing yourselves reflected. Moving to Washington State from Houston, Texas was a culture shock for me. I'm a proud alum of the University of Houston. I graduated in 2012. I worked there starting in 2013, briefly for 2.5 years, and I came straight to Evergreen. So my 7th year of this work. And something I want to talk about as we dive into strategy, and I'm going to try to be succinct in what I want to talk about here, is I read an article published by AFP in February 2020, and it says, according to a 2018 demographic report of the Association of Fundraising Professionals, of more than 31,000 members, less than 10% are professionals of color. And this includes those who self-identify as African American, Hispanic, Native American, multi-ethnic, Alaskan Native, and Pacific Islander. And of those who are not members of AFP, there may be more who do not self-identify as fundraising professionals. And I want to share that because it's important to name in terms of like this segue being recruitment. People want to go where they can be seen. I moved from Houston to Olympia, Washington, and it is a beautiful city, and I don't see myself a lot there. So I did see myself a lot in Tacoma. I saw myself a lot more in Tacoma than I did in Seattle, and so I moved to Tacoma. And when it comes to, my work has done a really great job of, I think, creating opportunities with intentionality for the folks on our team. And before I dive into strategy, I want to name something that sometimes I think people overlook in retention strategies. And it's not enough to attract people of color and give them the opportunities. You have to, I believe it's important that You demonstrate that value, not just in the opportunities you make for staff, but in the value you express to them in their compensation. And that is a conversation we don't have time to dive deeply into, but there are big disparities in the compensation gaps between colleagues of colors and those who are white. And so that type of intentionality, like, I love doing this work. I love feeling like my work has an impact and it's something greater than myself. And I have bills to pay in a life that I am trying to build for myself and my family. And I think that's something that we in our shops have to acknowledge. It's not enough to just bring people to the table. You've got to look at every opportunity to express your value and the value that they bring to your org and the work. And with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about strategy, right? The dialogue is really key. We all are bringing different levels of experience with this work and comfort, and diving into this work, it's required me to look so much at my own beliefs and thoughts. Coming from Texas, I knew so little about Native American and Alaskan Native culture. I put my foot in my mouth a few times. I had colleagues point the things out, and it's sometimes it can feel embarrassing. And you know what? An ability to lean into that is really key. And what I've experienced and what we've experienced at Evergreen, it's a four-year public liberal arts college in the Pacific Northwest. We've been really leaning in, like many other orgs, to this important work. And what I want to share today is really, in terms of strategy, a commitment at the highest level of leadership. And at Evergreen, I've seen this happen in two ways. One is a commitment to prioritize this work within the operations of advancement, including our foundation. And that's in large part because our leader, our VP, Amanda Walker. And it only helps us that the institution itself has made a commitment to inclusive excellence and equity and inclusion for our students. And so when we can tie our operations to institutional strategies, it only helps us elevate this key work. So again, in your sphere of influence, I know we're all not working directly with our VPs and our executive leadership team, but oftentimes it's at the tactical level where you can use, think about how you are deploying and developing tactics to achieve those equity and inclusion objectives. And those we all have influence over. It's important to remember, I say that because epistemology doesn't go out the door. The way in which we each live our lives influences our work, whether we see that or not. That's where our biases come in. And so our ability to have that self-awareness and bring that to our work and use it to move our work forward in positive ways is really key. And so some quick examples I'll share with you that we've done at the strategic level is we revisited our team's values. And at a very fundamental level, we had a retreat. We looked at our values and said, are they the same now as in the context that we're in? And this was last summer, so it was a year difference. And we realized we didn't have equity and inclusion written in there. And so we made, our college uses a model of inclusive excellence to house DEI. And so that value is that we are committed to continuous learning and inclusive excellence, which we incorporate into our daily work through practice and cultural humility and awareness. There's no way I can be culturally competent and know Hayes' life experiences, but I can exercise humility and empathy and trying to understand those perspectives and reflecting on my own. And then moving.
Hey, Corian, I'm going to press pause real quick because we have 2 minutes left, and I love the point you just made. And I don't know if you want to press pause to see if anybody had another comment before we got kicked out of the room unceremoniously. And I just wanted to let you know.
Oh, I'd kick you out ceremoniously. Don't worry.
Okay, but Corian, I am loving what you're saying, and like we've said a million times, we could do this all day long. So you have final word and letting others jump in real quick.
Yeah, I want to make space so that others can jump in. And the last thing I want to say before we close out is, at Evergreen, we have an annual strategic plan for our division. And so we had a conversation following the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and we are not afraid to disrupt business as usual to elevate this work. And as a Black gay man working at Evergreen and Advancement, that really resonates with me. And so in our strategic plan, one of the objectives that we built out is that we wanted 75% of our proposals and appeals to seek to advance Evergreen's equity, inclusion, and racial justice goals. And so we found that in dialogue, a senior major gift officer at the time said, we dialogue a lot and that's great, but I want to do something with action. And we said, we influence philanthropic strategies and direct dollars to various programs and initiatives at the college. So creating ways to measure that and to measure that progress, write it into our goals and objectives has helped us move this work more strategically into action. Our annual alumni weekend just happened virtually, and rather than creating a singular opportunity to talk about DEI with our alumni and engage them that way with donors, we founded the whole program we offered seminars and workshops looking at tackling the world's biggest challenges through a lens of racial justice and equity. So even at the programmatic level, rather than isolating equity and inclusion, centering it. And with that,
I love that.
I was gonna open it up and see where we are, because I can't see my clock.
We're at 8:45, we might be kicked out.
We're at the end. And so I do need to ceremoniously bring this great discussion to a temporary conclusion. This is, I think, just the beginning of the discussion. And I want to thank all of the panelists for their preparation and participation this morning. I know Maureen just sent a note to the chat room reminding everybody to feel free to get in touch with her, but I'm sure everybody on the panel would be happy to continue this conversation further. And I might suggest, Maureen, that maybe we think about hosting a full session on this sometime over the coming weeks or months and invite all of the attendees, but we'll talk about that later. In the meantime, we're 1 minute over. I'm going to let everybody go, get ready for the next session. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott, Corian, Nohe, you've all been excellent. Thank you all. Thank you, my U of O colleagues, for being here.